Alright, hey guys. Been a couple days since I did a video for you guys, but I wanted to go ahead and do one. There was something that I had picked up on uh, the end of Judges 6, and now I'm reading through Judges 7. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of point out was God's mercy and patience with us. Especially in times when we don't really understand what it is that He's doing. We don't really have the faith within ourselves to muster. So one of the things that we see is that in chapter 6, God is talking to Gideon and telling him that he's going to basically raise him up to fight against the Midianites and basically push the Midianites out. And Gideon is kind of unsure about whether or not his calling is real, whether or not he's just got some doubts and some questions. Um, and in verse 36 it says, "And Gideon said unto God, If thou wilt save Israel by my hand, as thou hast said, behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the floor, and if dew be on the fleece only, and it be dry on the ground beside, then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by my hand, as thou hast said." So he tells him, okay, I'm going to put this fleece out, this sheep's fleece out on the ground, and in the morning when I get up, if there's dew on the fleece but not on the ground next to it, then I'll know that, I'll take this as kind of a sign that you're talking to me and that you're going to do this work. So he goes on and he says, and it says basically on the next day that this actually happened. The fleece was wet, and he wrung out a bowl of water out of the fleece, but the ground was dry. So Gideon's still unsure, still having some questions. In verse 39 it says, "And Gideon said unto God, Let not thine anger be hot against me, and I will speak but this once. Let me prove, I pray thee, but this once with the fleece. Let it now be dry only on the fleece, and upon the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on the ground." So once again, now still having some doubts, still having some questions, despite the fact that he had asked for kind of a sign. And sure enough, he asked for another sign, and God, in his patience and mercy, does it, So he goes through, and basically Gideon is rounding up all the people. He's following through with what God had said, and he rounds up, a bunch of guys, like, 22,000 guys or whatever, to go against Midian. And God tells him, no, you got too many guys. And basically they go down to the water, and everybody that kneels down and drinks the water from their hand, God says, okay, take note of them. And then everybody who drinks down and sticks their face down, lays down and puts their face down to the water, drink the water, God says, take note of them. And then he tells them, okay, everybody that knelt down and drank the water from the hand, those are the ones you're going to take. And there was only 300 of them. So he basically whittles them down from 22,000 to 300. But he tells them, the reason that I'm doing this is because I don't want you to get to the end of this battle and say that it was by the strength of 22,000 men. And some people, particularly in the secular circles, will look at this and they'll look at it from the perspective of, well, God is kind of boasting. God is showing his strength. He's kind of showing off. But that's not it at all. The same patience that God exhibited with the fleece, calling Gideon out and then kind of helping to build his faith, helping to grow his faith with the two signs that he did with the fleece. He's the same God who is now doing this with the men. All he's done is he's upped the ante, so to speak. He's continuing to build Gideon's faith, and he's showing him that that he doesn't need 22,000 men. So we get to verse 9, And it says, And it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, Arise, and get thee down unto the host, for I have delivered it into thine hand. So he tells Gideon, all right, get up and go on down there with your 300 guys and stuff. He says, But if thou fear to go down, go thou with Phurah thy servant down to the host, and thou shalt hear what they say, and afterwards shall thine hands be strengthened to go down unto the host. So he tells them, look, I want you to go down there and kind of listen in to what these guys are saying, these Midianites, and basically if you're too afraid to go down there, then go ahead and take this guy Phurah with you, take your servant with you, and then go down and hear what they have to say, and basically when you hear what it is that they have to say, you'll be strengthened and encouraged. So the response, although very subtle, is classic, because he says in verse 11, Then he went down with Phurah his servant unto the outside of the armed men that were in the host. So here it is, we have Gideon, who has just seen these miracles, just done all this. God has told him that you're going to take these 300 men and you're going to take the Midianites, and he's still scared. But he's obedient nonetheless. He still goes down and he still exhibits faith, and he goes down there. He takes Phurah with him, and they listen in to these dreams of the Amalekites and the Midianites that are being foretold, and basically it says that Gideon is going to win. So Gideon comes out of there and leads his 300 guys in to attack the Midianites, and they destroyed them all. But the point of this is that faith and courage is not the absence of fear. It's obedience in spite of that fear. That even when Gideon didn't know what it was that he was supposed to do, didn't know that it was really God that was calling him, he still called out to God, and he trusted in God with the fleece, that God would reveal himself, that God would basically do as Jesus said, and help down my unbelief, when the guy had prayed to Jesus. And God helped his unbelief. He helped his faith grow. And then he asked for another sign, and God helped him grow again, and really kind of made it indisputable that God was calling him and was speaking directly to him. And then God goes one step further and ups his faith again, and he tells him, look, I don't want you to defeat these guys with 22,000 men, because then you're at the end of that battle, you're still going to have doubt in your heart. So he tells him, I'm going to send you down there with 300 men. There will be no question in your heart at that point. Gideon was afraid, but he went there, he got the 300, and he went down, and looking down on the hill onto the host, God tells him to go down there, and there's something I want you to listen to. But if you're still afraid, take Phurah with you. And it says that he was still afraid, and that he took Phurah with him, and they went down, and they heard the interpretation, and sure enough, exactly like God had said, when he heard the interpretation of this Midianite dream, he was encouraged and he was emboldened, and he took the 300 men, and he sacked the Midianites. So something that I just kind of wanted to point out there is that, faith and courage is obedience in spite of our fears and our doubts. So anyway, you guys, God bless.